Section 10.4 is where we're going to compare perimeters and areas of similar figures. This theorem says that if the scale factor of two similar figures is A to B, then the ratio of their perimeters is the same. It's still A to B. But if I'm doing the ratio of their areas, then I need to square A and put it over the square of B. So first problem is just finding out what my ratios are. So it gives me the trapezoids, and notice that this one has 6, this has 9, and then it tells me my ratio of my lengths is 6 to 9, which reduces to 2/3. So it says what's the ratio of the perimeters? Well, remember that my ratio is still A to B. So if my scale factor is 2/3, then my ratio is 2/3 for the perimeter. If it wants me to find the ratio of the area, now I have to take that scale factor and I need to square them. So now I'm going to square 2 and I'm going to square 3, so now my ratio is 4 to 9. Okay, pause the video and see if you can do the next one. Just pay attention to the wording, make sure you're going from large to small because this one was going from small to large. Okay, in the got a question, first one says what's the ratio of their perimeters, and it would be the same thing but says large to small, so I would want to flip those two around because I first made that mistake and then realized that this is wrong. Okay, then on the next one, the areas, so I would square both of them, so it'd be 5 squared, 7 squared, and then I'd flip them around, so 49 to 25. So just pay attention. Most of the time it will go from small to large, but pay attention to the wording so you know which one goes first. Okay? Okay, so then on the next piece, we're going to find the areas using those scale factors. So this says the area of the smaller regular pentagon is about 27.5 centimeters squared. What's the best approximation for the area of the larger regular pentagon? So over here on the side, I went ahead and said, okay, what's my scale factor? So it would be 4 to 10, which will reduce to 2 to 5. And then I went ahead and found the ratio of the areas. So the ratio of the areas, remember, means I have to square the top and the bottom. So it would be 4 over 25. So since they're talking about area here, I went ahead and found the ratio of the areas. And then what I did is I set up an equation, or a proportion I should say. So I put my ratio of my areas over here, and then I set up on the other side the number along with the same figure. So I put all of the small figure numbers on top, all of the large numbers on the bottom. So 4 to 25 was the ratio of the areas, 27.5 is for the small pentagon, so that's why I put it on top so it aligned. So if you remember when we solved proportions, you just cross multiply and divide. So on my calculator, I would just type in 25 times 27.5 and take that number and divide by 4. So your answer should be 171.9, but it wanted me to approximate, so that's why it's 172. All right, see if you can do the next one. So on the next one, it has a scale factor of 3 to 4, and it says the area of the larger parallelogram is 96. So again, this is my scale factor of 3 to 4, so then I would need to square it to find the ratio of the areas. So that's why you're going to use 9 over 16 on the left-hand side of your proportion. So then you want to match up the 96 with the same figure. So the 16 is referring to the larger figure, so that's why you want to put 96 on the bottom over on the right-hand side. So again, make sure you're lining them up correctly because otherwise it will make a difference. So now I would just cross multiply and divide. So you should be doing 9 times 96 and then dividing that number by 16. So you end up with 54 square inches. Okay, last question here. It says the triangles at the right are similar. What's the scale factor? What's the ratio of the perimeters? So notice that they end up giving us area. So I can still set up a ratio. So I can go ahead and do 50 over 98. But remember that will reduce. So I can go ahead and divide both of those by 2, and that would be 25 over 49. So for right now, my ratio of my areas is 25 over 49. But I want the ratio of the perimeters. So what you can do, since this is squared, just do the square root of all of those, and that'll give you what A over B is. So that means that my ratio of my perimeters is 5 to 7, and that's the same answer as my scale factor. So both answers would be 5 to 7. Okay, see if you can do the last one. Alright, on the very last one, it gives me the areas of two rectangles. So I would set up the ratio. So I did just the same order, 1875 over 135. Then I checked to see if it reduced. So I found that it reduced to 125 over 9. Then I would need to do the square root so that I could find just A and B. So now this ends up giving you a decimal on top, so I'm okay with you leaving it at 11.2 over 3. The book will want you to change it to radical form, so if you did 5 square root of 5 over 3, I'm okay with either answer. Okay, so that's it for similar figures and doing the ratio of the perimeter and areas. Just remember to square the ratio of your areas. So now you're ready to go ahead and start your IXL.